Dear team's participants, welcome to all of you. Really very happy to see you. I'm Marie-Laure Salle. I'm the director of the Geneva Graduate Institute, and I welcome you on behalf of the Institute tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening to all of you. We have a bit of a change of agenda, so we are going to change a bit the order, at least of the beginning, at least of our session. Professor Banerjee, whom we have the chance to be able to hear from, Professor Banerjee, you all know, is the Ford Foundation International Professor of Economics at MIT and co-recipient of the 2019 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. Professor Banerjee has to leave us at 7 sharp, so I would actually propose that we start with his presentation and discussion that will be monitored by Professor Viarango, and then I'll come back and I'll make the speech that was planned for the beginning. So I'll leave the floor to Martina now and Professor Banerjee. Thank you very much, Professor Banerjee. I don't see you. Oh, here you are. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. This is really a great honor you're doing us.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was muted. Do you hear me? Yes. Perfect. Tell me when to speak. Now? Okay. I can speak. Well, thank you for having me. This is the Geneva Challenge is a remarkable effort, and those of you who have made it to this stage, I congratulate all of you, and thank you for inviting me. This loneliness is the subject here, and I want to start with something that a little bit of a background, which is that in some sense what is interesting about me about this whole question of loneliness and related question, as I would insist, of depression, is that it's supposed to be a rich people's problem. And the theory we were often given blindly is that, when you are poor, you are worried about starvation, you are busy trying to build your nest egg, survival, so you don't have time to get depressed. And relatedly, you live in efficient ways, you don't live alone, you live with your children, grandchildren, extended families, and therefore you're not lonely. I'll show you this graphic is meant to be a response to that. This is data we put together from what are called health and retirement surveys. They're standardized, relatively standardized surveys, which are done in countries like the US, but also countries like China, Mexico, Costa Rica. There are more, but these are pretty similar surveys, so we put them together. What's on the horizontal axis is age. What is on the vertical axis is standard measures of depression, which are based on asking questions. None of these are done by a psychiatrist, psychologist sitting down with the person. They're done based on survey questions, but they are relatively sophisticated efforts. It's what is used in the US, and you see two things here. One is the well-known sort of claim that it's a rich, poor people can't afford to be depressed. It's just false. Malawi, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, has some of the highest levels of depression. And among people who are over 70, especially people who are 80, the US, interestingly, it has a high level of depression that's actually often discussed, especially among especially among women, but that number is dwarfed by the numbers in almost every country in this graphic except South Africa. And you can see that all of these countries, China, there are two surveys from India, which I'll come back to the second one, the Tamil Nadu one. Mexico is the world champion in this. So it's really not a, I think it's just not reasonable to think of it as a rich country problem. That then, now, this is a correlation. You should not think of it as causal, but it's a striking one. Depressed people, this is, I think, known that often will say that they can't do certain things. These are activities of daily living, very basic things like getting up from a chair, lifting up a bucket of water, things that you, especially if you're living in a developing country, you have to do to really be functional in the world. What fractions say they have some difficulty, and that number, is, it's not a, it's a, you can see that there's some correlation with depression. What is very striking is the next one, which is mortality. Depression predicts 2-year mortality. It doesn't mean that it's causal. It could be because you're sick that you're depressed. It's nothing. I have no way of establishing it's causal, but it's very striking to think about. Among people who are depressed, the 2-year mortality is much higher than among other people. Coming to loneliness. If you look at the lonely versus not lonely comparison, which is the blue bar versus the gray bar, you can see that in the graphic on the left, there is a very clear difference between the lonely and the non-lonely. This is again not claiming causality. In India, you see that number. The not lonely depression is 20%. Among the lonely, it's 85%. That number, 80% in many countries among the lonely. Now, that's of course cutting both ways. It's not just that, lonely people are depressed. Depressed people might be abandoned by their friends and therefore be lonely. I again don't want you to think of this as necessarily causal, but there's a very strong relationship there between loneliness and depression. And there's an age effect. Clearly, people. You can see that as people get older, they are more likely to be saying that they are feeling lonely. Now, this is lonely is a bit maybe too related to depression, because it might well be that it's just people are describing their states. But here's something that is more closer to sort of separating those things, in the sense that the previous one is just asking, do you feel lonely? And you might feel lonely surrounded by 20 people. Here, this is looking at people who are depressed versus lonely, and you can see that the people who live with a bunch of people, they can feel depressed, but for them they don't feel lonely. People who say they're depressed and lonely tend to be elderly living alone. Now, elderly living alone is, as I said, there was the theory that this is something that really doesn't exist in poor countries. This is data from the southern state of Tamil Nadu in India, where 14% of women over 55 live alone, and that's partly because their husbands are older and also more likely to die at a younger age. So there you have fewer of them. So women are a dominant category among the lonely. Most of them have children. we ask them why they are still lonely, even if they have children, and the answer is, in some cases they don't have children, but 80% of them have a living child, but they don't like living with their son-in-law, or they don't like being a burden, or so various social difficulties are the reason why, as I said, 14% of the women are living alone. When they are living alone, you can see that in the data, they are depressed. Now, this is relieved by being less poor. You can see that these are among the elderly living alone. If you have plenty of money, then it's much less of a problem than you don't. So it is partly an economic problem, people feeling that, they are depressed, that makes them less able to be functional in terms of, getting work done and earning an income. They are older, they don't want to rely on others. That combination means that they're all constantly under financial pressure. We did a randomized control trial where the Tamil Nadu government gave some of these women a pension that is actually supposed to get to everyone. We enabled it for some of those people. And when you look at the effect of that, 3 months, there is an immediate effect on their reported well-being, less depressed. So part of it is financial, but I think that what this is pointing us to is we need to think of, and I think as the fertility rate goes down in the world, Tamil Nadu is one of the places where the fertility transition happened. Early in India, as fertility rates goes down in the world, and Tamil Nadu also has higher depression rates than in the rest of India. That's not really accidental. As the fertility transition happens, as families get smaller, as older people live alone, thinking of how social structures innovating in ways in which they can be kept more involved, less lonely, perhaps better economically supported as well, and in general less unhappy, is going to be one of the great challenges of the next 30 years as the world ages. I'll stop there and take questions from Professor Vierlinger.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, for this very insightful talk. I would like to start by asking you, as you documented in your research, given the global prevalence of loneliness and the link to increased health risk, what do you think could be the role of multilateralism and global cooperation in advancing Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Agenda regarding good health and well-being? We observe national efforts introduced to address the challenges of loneliness around the world. For example, both the UK and Japan appointed a Minister of Loneliness. But how do you see the role of international cooperation, in particular at a time when the impact of the pandemic on government debt and deficit has been large? We don't see him. Abhijit? Seems to be a problem with the connection. We just wait for a moment. Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
I don't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? It looks like the connection. We're having some problems with the audio. Can you hear us? No, it doesn't. Oh, outside, yes. Okay, it's on our side, it looks like.
Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me? No, we still have some problems.
You can't unmute yourself as an attendee. So
Ah.
you were listed as an attendee. You have to remain host.
Some support is coming. Yes. Ah, okay, okay. Yes, it will take just a minute, I think. Okay, great. Can you hear me, Abhijit?
You completely froze. There was no sound coming. I don't know if you could hear me.
No. Sorry, we had some technical problems, I guess, on our side. Let me go back, perhaps, just to two very quick questions. The first one, as you documented in your research, we observed this prevalence of loneliness and the link to increased health risk. We observe at the national level some efforts introduced to address these challenges. For example, both the UK and Japan appointed a Minister of Loneliness. But how do you see the role of international cooperation, in particular at a time when the impact of the COVID pandemic has affected both government debt and deficits?
Yeah, so I think that, as you are pointing out, a lot of this is a question of financial resources of governments. And there is obviously, I think, what gets prioritized is clearly one of the, it's a political battle. There are many, there's people who want more resources for education, children, public health, whatever, many good things. And I think the thing that I would say, therefore, I think is really important that we do, first, I think the research is important in demonstrating that this is an important challenge. In these, out of spending, out of total healthcare spending, 3.4% of healthcare spending in rich countries is on mental health. In LMICs, that number is 0.3%, so less than 1/10 of that. And in the poorest countries is 0.01%, so another third of that. So it's really, money is really, and at this point, there's really very little research on it. It's not a topic that's much emphasized anywhere. So in some sense, I think what you are doing here by highlighting loneliness is a challenge, and I think for me, I particularly think of the elderly as being lonely, but it's of course broader than that. I think you're doing an important part of what we can do. We have to get this on the front burner. Right now, it's just not there. Nobody actually. So I think part of what we're trying to achieve by showing this data is to say, look, you can't just blow it off. It's something that's big and important.
Thank you. And just a last question. One of the aims of our Geneva Challenge contest is to bridge the gap between academic research, practice, and policy making, and to give the opportunity to graduate students to contribute to the debate by proposing pragmatic solutions to advance development goals. What do you think are the right balances between research and public policy in the careers of those who care about development? And what advice would you give to our students, some of whom are about to start their careers?
That's an excellent question. I guess I would say that on this particular topic, I really think that we are looking for some new clever ideas. For example, we tried actually to see if by having a light touch sort of mental health treatment, we would have any effects. But while giving money to people has an effect, a substantial effect, the light touch mental health treatment doesn't. So we're really looking for straws, cheap things we can do that will actually help. So if I were someone young working on this, I would be looking for those, relatively inexpensive things that you can do on a large scale in poor countries, and that's partly research, partly thinking, partly implementation, and each of us is good at something and will do different pieces of it. But I don't see, it seems like a very big problem that's been sort of sitting there without much action. So it's in some ways, if you're a young, ambitious, intellectually excited person, this is a great space to be in.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. This was a fascinating address.
Sorry, it was very quick.
And I do hope that we'll be able to welcome you someday in person here in Geneva at the Graduate Institute.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will now continue. Professor Marie-Laure Salle, Director of the Graduate Institute, will give her remarks.
So it's me again. Dear Ambassador Stalin, dear President of the jury, dear Michael, dear members of the jury, dear members of the finalist teams, ladies and gentlemen, proper good evening now. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the Graduate Institute for the 2023 Advancing Development Goals International Contest for Graduate Students, also known as the Geneva Challenge for short, a nickname that says it all. As you may know, the Graduate Institute launched the Advancing Development Goals Context in 2014, thanks to the vision and the generous support of Ambassador Stalin, who is here with us, and under the patronage of late Kofi Annan, whom the Graduate Institute is proud to count among its distinguished alumni. Kofi Annan presented the challenge in the following way. The Advancing Development Goals Contest is a worthy and important initiative and will encourage and inspire young students to be key agents of development and peace. This year is a special edition. We celebrate our 10th anniversary, and we celebrate it with a focus on, as has been said already by Professor Banerjee, a very important challenge, one that is profoundly connected to many of the Sustainable Development Goals, and a challenge that is only recently starting to gain the attention it deserves, as Professor Banerjee also said, the challenge of loneliness. Loneliness has actually for long been high on my own agenda as one of the structural challenges of our time, and I have regretted, like Professor Banerjee, the lack of attention that it has received. So I have to say that I'm particularly happy that it became this year's theme for our Geneva Challenge. What do I mean by loneliness as a structural challenge? I mean that beyond its expression at the individual level, which obviously is an important one, loneliness also reflects and reveals a deeper evolution of our societies. Hence, both the problem and the solutions have to be looked at also at a more structural level. Let me start here from the work of Émile Durkheim at the turn of the 20th century to make that argument. For Émile Durkheim, the extreme development of differentiation and individualism in any society, without in parallel the stabilization of new forms of solidarity, of community, will inexorably lead to what he calls anomie. Anomie can be defined as the breakdown of a collective glue, of the community and social bonds that hold us together. One of the many direct and measurable consequences of the progress of anomie, as Durkheim scientifically showed and convincingly argued in his 1897 book, Suicide, is a significant increase in rates of suicide, which resonates obviously with the figures we saw on To Your Death that Professor Banerjee showed us. Another consequence of anomie is the progress of structural forms of loneliness. The dynamics of our modern and postmodern societal evolution have the direct consequence of increasingly affirming but also isolating the individual. And there are many associated ills that emerge from this for individuals but also for societies and countries. Loneliness has been shown to increase psychological and physical health problems, obviously, this has been said also, to reduce the capacity to find a job and hence to ensure economic and social integration. It's been shown also to do other things. In her 1951 book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, the philosopher Hannah Arendt went even further, affirming that loneliness could be at the roots of our fall into totalitarianism. Let me read here what is a stunningly modern text. And I quote, "What prepares men for totalitarian domination in the non-totalitarian world is the fact that loneliness, once a borderline experience, usually suffered in certain marginal social conditions like old age, has become an everyday experience. The preparation has succeeded when people have lost contact with their fellow men as well as with the reality around them. For together with these contacts, men lose the capacity of both experience and thought. Structural loneliness, in other words, Hannah Arendt tells us, makes us also ideal subjects of totalitarian rule. It is undeniable that the COVID pandemic has helped us realize the importance of this societal trend by making it both deeper and more visible. Technological evolution, with its attempt at virtualizing nearly everything, is also, and very much so, an accelerator of the problem. I'm delighted to see that the problem and the search for solutions are now increasingly on the table, not yet on the front burner, but getting, hopefully, there. For a number of years now, the Fondation de France is producing every year a study of solitude in the plural. The World Health Organization and the ICRC are both now clearly identifying loneliness as a preoccupying societal challenge on which they set themselves to work. In 2023, very recently, the US Surgeon General commissioned a report on the topic. The title of that report was, and I quote, "Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, the US Surgeon General's Advisory on the Healing Effects of Social Connection and Community." I strongly recommend to read the introductory letter by Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the Surgeon General in that report. And let me just quote here a short extract that you will see resonates strongly with Hannah Arendt's words. I quote, "Given the profound consequences of loneliness and isolation, we have an opportunity and an obligation to make the same investments in addressing social connection that we have made in addressing tobacco use, obesity, and the addiction crisis. If we fail to do so, we will pay an ever-increasing price in the form of our individual and collective health and well-being. And we will continue to splinter and divide until we can no longer stand as a community or a country. Instead of coming together to take on the great challenges before us, we will further retreat to our corners, angry, the important word, sick, and alone." I'm very much looking forward to discovering the projects of our 2023 finalist teams. Let me mention that a total of 216 teams are 5 finalists and 211 more, with altogether nearly 1,000 students from across the world, more than 100 nationalities, registered for this edition of the Geneva Challenge. I'm heartened by the idea of the engagement this represents. More than a competition, I like to think of the Geneva Challenge as a collective drive, hence a collaboration across the world on some of the most urgent issues of our world. And seeing how engaged and committed your generation is gives me hope and revives my conviction that however dire our straits are, we just have to keep aiming for peace, justice, and sustainability together, and that it is precisely together that we can make significant progress in that direction. Let me take the opportunity to express a number of heartfelt thanks. First, naturally, I would like to thank Ambassador Stalin for his long-standing support of the challenge. The challenge would not exist without you, dear Yeno, without your vision and your conviction that young generations should be empowered and encouraged to become catalysts of change. These thanks are expressed on behalf, naturally, of all of us at the Institute, but also, I think, of all participants and alumni of the challenge since 2014. Let me also give warm thanks to Michael Moeller, former director of the United Nations at Geneva and now currently senior distinguished fellow at the Institute and in charge president of the jury of the Geneva Challenge. Michael accepted last year to replace Ambassador Stalin, whom you don't replace, but nevertheless as the president of the jury. And dear Michael, it's really a great honor for all of us to have you in that role, and I cannot thank you enough. Naturally, our collective thanks extend also to our distinguished members of the jury, to members of the steering committee, and in particular to Martina Viarengo, who has been working very hard throughout the year on the challenge. I would also like to thank Lena Menge for her management and stellar coordination role throughout the year. It's absolutely key to the success of this initiative, Lena, you know that. Last but not least, I would like to thank Ishita Bhatia, one of our students, who is also the project coordinator of the Geneva Challenge. And the COM and events teams at the Institute for all their hard work in the preparation for today's event. And sorry again for the technological moment, let's put it that way. The Geneva Challenge, in other words, represents an intense teamwork, and I'm impressed by the energy, the motivation, and even the joy that the challenge generates year after year. This year, as last year, we've managed to coordinate with the Kofi Annan Foundation to make sure that our Geneva Challenge finalists meet with the Kofi Annan changemakers. I'm not sure if it's already done or if you will meet them, but I'm very happy that this is happening. I'm very happy that we can collaborate with the Kofi Annan Foundation and with Corinne on this. Changing the world, as I said before, will only happen through broad-based collaboration and constructive encounters like those happening this week. Halfway to the 2030 deadline, in a world rife with profound geopolitical tensions and with our common future hanging in the balance, it's undeniable that systemic and long-term change is what we should aim for, and with quite a degree of urgency. This is what our world needs. This aim requires courage and integrity. The courage to embrace complexity and to decide under uncertainty, the integrity that is the mark of true leadership. This aim also implies a strong orientation to solutions. We have to talk, and we've already talked a lot those past years, but more importantly now, it is time to walk the talk, to act. What we need are solutions that break with the past and are in a deep sense regenerative. The engagement necessary for that level of transformation is impossible without the vital desire for hope and a powerful form of pragmatic utopianism, which you all exemplify, dear participants, to this year's challenge, whether finalists, whether in this room or not. The Geneva Graduate Institute is proud to be hosting an international contest such as the Geneva Challenge. For the last 10 years, the challenge has empowered students and young people from across the world to engage in thinking, daring, dreaming, and imagining sustainable futures and solutions. Today, more than ever, we feel that this is one of the missions of universities, to engage the future with hope and desire. happy anniversary, long live the Geneva Challenge. And now I'm not sure to whom I'm giving the word, but thank you very much. Michael.
Good evening, everyone. First, let me start by a very warm thank you to Professor Banerjee for his very insightful address. It really was a privilege to have him with us here for the award ceremony of the 2023 Geneva Challenge. And much gratitude to Professor Martina Villarengo for moderating the discussion. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, this year, as Marie-Laure Salle just said, we commemorate the 10th edition of this wonderful contest. And 2023 also marks the halfway point of the implementation of the 2030 agenda. As we navigate an increasingly fragmented world in search for solutions to the massive existential problems afflicting our planet, it is imperative that we all understand that only integrated, collaborative, networked, and preventive approaches will allow us to find and implement these solutions successfully. And it is incumbent on every single one of us to take part in this crucial search for solutions at all levels of our societies and at whatever level of capacity each one of us has. We have, all of us, the responsibility to contribute. This includes intergenerational collaboration to ensure that knowledge is shared and passed on to those of us who will be responsible for the future management of our world. Only through such collaborative processes will we succeed in ensuring a sustainable and healthy environment for the generations to come. The Geneva Challenge has proven over the last 10 years to be an excellent and impactful example for this much-needed change in approach. It has gathered more than 10,000 graduate students, divided into more than 2,100 teams from more than 200 universities and representing more than 100 nationalities from all regions of the world. Quite impressive. In fact, the impressive numbers of collaborative proposals for solutions to a wide range of substantial challenges in the realm of sustainable development are a clear testimony of the ability of the challenge to act as a catalyst for integrated approaches. The ability of thousands of young people to collaborate across countries, universities, and thematic interests has been impressive and a wonderful provider of hope for the future. On behalf of the jury, I would like to join Marie-Laure Salle in thanking Ambassador Jenny Stalin, the founder and funder of the challenge, for continuing to give the opportunity to all our young participants to embrace these challenges, to see them as opportunities, and to devise innovative solutions in order to effectively manage them and help advance the global development goals. Also, a deep felt gratitude to Marie-Laure Salle and the Geneva Graduate Institute for hosting this contest and for helping prepare the participants for their work at the cutting edge of global challenges. May I encourage all of you who haven't already done so to discover the 10th anniversary report on the website of the Geneva Graduate Institute, highlighting how the Geneva Challenge is a catalyst of hope, ideas, and solutions to tackle some of the world's complex challenges, and showing us that youth leadership is crucial in this fight. The Geneva Challenge yearly solicits theoretically grounded and pragmatic solutions to a real-world problem from interdisciplinary collaborations between groups of master students. This year, as you know, we call for proposals tackling the challenges of loneliness. From what you've already heard this evening, I think we were a little bit ahead of the game and certainly on top of this wave that we're beginning to see. The World Health Organization, as has also been said, has recently declared loneliness to be a pressing global health threat. It is becoming a global public health concern that transcends borders and affects every facet of health, well-being, and development. 1 in 4 older persons across all regions of the world, 1 in 4, experience social isolation, and for them loneliness is associated with a 50% increased risk of developing dementia and a 30% increased risk of coronary artery disease or stroke, just to name an example. Between at least 5 and 15% of all adolescents are lonely. The experience of loneliness is prevalent in all societies around the world, among people from all socioeconomic backgrounds, ages, and genders. It impacts people's physical and mental well-being, as well as their ability to fully participate in political, social, and economic life. In short, loneliness is an underappreciated global public health threat that needs urgent and sustained attention, which is what you've done, dear students. This year we received 77 submissions from 317 participants studying in 190 different universities around the world. These numbers underline the importance of the topic of loneliness to young people everywhere, as it should be to all of us. As you're about to hear, the contributions presented here today and by all the participants of the Geneva Challenge speak to the enormous potential these young, innovative minds have. The submissions have covered all regions of the world and present a wide range of creative and innovative solutions to tackle loneliness in its many different forms. And today, the jury has heard the excellent oral presentations from the 5 finalist teams for the 2023 edition this afternoon. And before moving on to the award ceremony, we wanted to give them the opportunity to briefly present their projects to you. And in so doing, I will also invite our jury members to provide feedback on the projects individually after their pitch. So I will now invite the teams one by one, and as soon as you have done your 2-minute sharp and focused presentation, I will ask one of our jury members to come up and make a comment. So we'll start with Team Africa. If you want to join me here on the stage, please. The floor is yours. Go ahead. Oh, you have the mic. That's good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, hello. Oh. Hi, I am Al Hassan, and this is Team Africa. Just like Prof. Abhijit Banerjee mentioned, numerous studies have indicated that loneliness can have severe implications on a person's physical and mental well-being, with increased risk of anxiety and depression being its immediate effects. A cross-sectional study in Nigeria indicated that about 40% of young people and 21.8% of retirees suffer from loneliness. The challenge, however, is the lack of robust social support systems in Lagos, Nigeria, further exacerbate this challenge. In response to this, the Grand Guru Enclave is a dance of experience which help foster intergenerational connection, mutual learning, community transformation, thereby filling the lives of people with joy and excitement. The Grand Guru Enclave runs a curriculum which not only addresses the causes of loneliness, but also the effect of loneliness. The Grand Guru Enclave employs a hybrid approach, with some of our programs being in person and other programs being on a virtual community, thereby fostering mutual connection between generations, even when they are worlds apart. To help ensure that we are specific in our targets, the Grand Guru Enclave uses the SDGs to measure our impact, directly targeting SDG 1, 3, and 4, which are zero poverty, good health and well-being, as well as quality education, with an overall aim of achieving SDG Goal 10, which is reducing inequalities across all generations and social strata. Well, the question is, where do we pilot? We intend to pilot in Ikeja, Lagos. The reason being that if we succeed in Ikeja, we can succeed anywhere in this world. And that is the reason why we chose Ikeja, Lagos, as a place to pilot the project. Well, after Ikeja, we intend to expand to other states within Nigeria, Africa eventually, and the world at large. Join us on this exciting journey as we transform lives, fill hearts with purpose, and foster mutual connection, thereby ridding people of loneliness in this endless tunnel of loneliness. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. No. Stay here. I'd like to ask my colleague on the jury, Michael Keating, who is the Executive Director of the European Institute of Peace, who has a few comments about your efforts.
Thank you. Well, the jury really liked your submission on many, many grounds, but I'm going to single out a few. First, you're addressing an underappreciated problem, which is urban loneliness in Africa. A lot of people don't think about Africa as having a big problem of urban loneliness, and not only are you doing that, you're doing it arguably in one of the most challenging cities in Africa. Secondly, you had great analysis of the problem. We were very impressed by your analysis of it. Thirdly, we liked your thinking about connectedness as a stress regulator that incentivizes better behavior across the board. We thought that was very interesting. Very strong intergenerational component. Great ideas as well that you described as antidotes to loneliness. We thought that was excellent. Strong stakeholder mapping, and you were thinking about the partners you can work with going forward. And above all, we just think you're a great team, very motivated team. So well done on behalf of the jury. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give it to the next team. Thank you. So now I'd like to call Team Europe to come and give us their presentation, please. You're welcome to use that if you want, yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Pratish from India, and they are Julia from Italy, Paolo from Brazil, Valentin from Russia, and Petros from Greece. And together we represent Team Europe. As we all know, loneliness is a complex problem that can have serious consequences for physical and mental health. And as pointed out by Professor Banerjee, it is particularly prevalent amongst the older people who are at a greater risk of social isolation. In smaller towns, this problem is compounded by the fact that the younger generation opts to move out to bigger cities in search for better economic opportunities. And at the same time, young students, young individuals, especially students, are looking for opportunities to find meaningful experiences and ways to connect with the local traditions. And now Julia would like to sort of expand on our solution.
Thank you, Pritish. So our platform solution is called Generazioni, and it addresses both the problems that Pritish mentioned by connecting elderly people with young students. We use an AI-powered matching system that ensures that young students and elderly people are connected based on their interests and personalities. And the platform also offers a user-friendly experience, which is designed to help the connection between elderly and young students. During the interactions, both of them can engage in a variety of activities, such as, for example, gardening, cooking, or storytelling. And the final goal is the one of crafting long-lasting friendships. The starting point of our project will be Camogli, which is a coastal town in Italy, where there are 6 times more elders than children and teenagers. And our vision is then to expand further, developing stronger and broader connections between generations. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Yvette, if you could come to the floor. Yvette Stevens, a former permanent representative of Sierra Leone here in Geneva.
Yes. Let me just say we very much loved your project. First of all, the diversity in your project. We have 5 individuals from 5 different countries on 3 continents, and that makes a lot in terms of applicability of your activities. We also have the disciplines too. We have humanistic, we have social sciences, we have management, and we also have engineer and physics. So that, in fact, is reflected in the quality of the proposal which you got out. It shows that each one of you, based on the perspective of where you come from, and also from your discipline, you have put a lot into this project. We liked it because also it's linking the younger generation with the older people, and you touch on a particular situation, a particular town where in winter, you know, it's a bubbling tourist place in summer, but in winter, the whole question of loneliness arises. And this project would address that by bringing together the young people and the older people. Your project had a very sound analysis and a good implementation plan, which we're impressed by. Seen from the experience of COVID, we know that the elderly could benefit a lot from having this exposure to technology. You know, I know that during COVID, we got letters to say seniors should book appointments for the vaccine by the internet, and you say, yeah, but many of the seniors do not even know how to do it. So this would expose the seniors, the older people, to technology, which is very current and which could be of use to them in terms of accessing different possibilities in that realm. So indeed, we did like your project. We know that that it would benefit the inhabitants. We are confident of the applicability, as I said, because each one would go back and take the whole idea of the project back, and we are confident of that. So we just want to tell you that we really liked your project, the effort you put into it, the interdisciplinary nature of it, and yes, we liked it.
Thank you very much, Yvette. Thank you, Team Europe. And now I call on Team Asia to come up.
Thank you.
You're welcome to use this if you want.
Thank you so much.
It's okay, you can use this.
Oh, okay. I can use it. Okay, so hi, I'm Christine. I'm an urban planner. I am joined by my teammates. We have Daryl, a clinical psychologist, Erica, a social development specialist, and Angel, a community organizer. The LRB Mangahan Residences in Metro Manila is home to over 100 older residents who fought for in-city resettlement. They have won the battle for decent housing, but they face the challenges of aging and loneliness. They want to be healthy. They want to be more involved in their community, and they want to make a living. We propose Tandanan, a community organizing model focused on co-creation, convergence, and a hybrid gamified reward system. With co-creation, we enable our community partners to take an active role in the design, implementation, and monitoring of their initiatives. With a convergence approach, we build and strengthen the linkages between the public and private sectors, the academe, civil society organizations, in order to provide opportunities and rewards to older adults. The hybrid gamified reward system enables us to work with our community partners towards their desired opportunities and rewards through physical and digital touchpoints. Project Tandanan envisions healthy aging, resilient coping, and increased agency for older adults. Let's lay the foundation and build Tandanan together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now ask Aggie Veres, the director of the UNDP office here in Geneva, to come. She has a few words to tell you.
Thank you very much. I think you have a fantastic idea and a very energetic team, so we have no doubt that you will take this forward one way or another. I think we especially like your approach that helping elderly people, especially the poor who have very little means, is not about charity. It's really to involve them. So the idea of the co-creation and convergence that you built into your project is something that is motivating and engaging for the communities. And I think we especially liked the innovative way and the creative way how you brought gamification into the project. I mean, who doesn't like to earn rewards and redeeming them for something that they need? So I think, that element is definitely adding not just an interesting aspect, but something that people actually enjoy participating in, especially that they know that it's on the long run it will help them. And then in terms of the approach of bringing in the various actors, building on the families and the whole kind of surrounding community is especially important, because when we're talking about loneliness and elderly people, it's not just to help them, but to help them being part of that community, and that requires not just focusing on them, but the community and the whole ecosystem or enabling environment, as you presented to us before as well. So thank you very much and congratulations. It's a very good idea and a nice project, and we hope that you'll take it forward.
Thank you, Aggie. Thank you. And I now would like to ask Team North America and Oceania to come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to have you here joining us. My name is Netta, and this is our teammates Chaitanya and Bella. We're representing North America from Harvard Kennedy School. Our project is focusing on the loneliness problem among the migrant workers, and we also want to quote Professor Banerjee that loneliness is usually rich people's problem, but actually the migrant domestic workers are the perfect examples of where loneliness and depression is very prevalent in poorer communities. So migrant domestic workers are individuals who migrate to other countries, and they usually engage in house caregiving and domestic works. And currently, there are 2.2 million Southeast Asian migrant domestic workers, and almost 50% of them are actually at the risk of loneliness and depression. And we believe this is because of their unideal condition when they go abroad. They go to employers' agencies and they don't have the complete information about what they're going to face when they're abroad. So they leave, they have incomplete information, and once they, receive abusive treatment, and when things got unideal, they can't just go back home, or they can't just switch employers. They have to stick because that's the only economic opportunities when they go abroad. And this is also worsened by the employer agencies, who, in this case, actually the middlemen of the recruiting process, where they actually provide no supports for our migrant workers. So our team, we propose an app called Nyaya, and Sanskrit language is called justice or righteousness, something that we hope Nyaya could bring to these vulnerable communities. The way it works, we envision, is that Nyaya would be a platform where migrant workers could actually share information. They share their experiences working with employers, which we hope would enable them to make a better and informed decisions making, who they want to work with. So they can know what they're going to face in their workplace, and hopefully they can avoid other unideal circumstances where they can escape these conditions. So we're hoping that this sort of becoming a streamlined platform for migrant workers to actually share community support, and eventually they will become financially independent, and they have better and stronger social bonds, and eventually they will be striving in their job, because migrant workers, they envision economic opportunities, and they're actually the agent of development for their country. So we're hoping that this will break the loneliness and depression problems among the migrant domestic workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Quick is coming up to make a comment. She's the head of special interest programs at the Oak Foundation. Rachel. Yeah, we have one here. Oh.
Thank you. Well, once again, we have a very international team. And we were so delighted to find you focusing on this issue, because it's a very much neglected issue. And maybe it's not one that immediately strikes you when you think of loneliness. But of course, for domestic migrant workers, most of whom are women, they are often leaving their families at home, traveling to another country. And then they find themselves very often in terrible conditions of work, or at least very restrictive. And so they're not able to necessarily connect with each other. So we were just impressed that you even shone a light on this issue. And then the way that you researched it, you were so thorough. You looked at all the systemic issues, all the background issues leading to this problem, and then you came up with a very ambitious proposal. I mean, in fact, so ambitious that you kind of want to change the whole system, which is remarkable. And you wrote a whole proposal about it, where you went through every way you would do that, and we were so impressed with the scope and scale. And we really believed it's something that could be scaled up into other countries. So we just wish you, all the wind under your sails, because whatever happens here, we believe that you could actually make this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, team. Thank you to Team North America. And now the last team, Team Latin America, please come up to the...
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Latin America. My name is Cheryl Ruiz. This is Ricardo Gutierrez, Maria Florencia Guzmán, and Adriana Raigada. And our project is Historias con Punche. Seniors suffer the most in silence from unmet needs in countries with aging population and fragmented elder policies. Most of the time, they're left alone all day without proper care or a companion. And the places in which they live and the physical impairments that they suffer from reduces their autonomy and mobility, reducing their social connections and making them feel more lonely. As a result, Historias con Punche was created to strengthen and create social networks through participatory arts by enhancing and recognizing the role of the elderly. The term punche refers to a colloquial Peruvian expression that refers to inner strength that comes from the creative energy and wisdom that elders have accumulated over the years. Through the collaborative process of participatory arts, elders will have the opportunity with a project to create original artwork. This is books and theater plays where they can share the life stories and experiences within the community. The purpose of this is to create a strong and cohesive community that values elders for what they are, recognizing them as agents that should be truly heard and seen. This is our project.
Thank you. Maria Luisa Silva, the former director of the UNDP office here in Geneva, has the last word.
Our most sincere congratulations, Team Latin America. We also loved your proposal. And let me very briefly outline 4 reasons why we really like it very much. I think the first reason was relevance. Because we appreciated very much your focus on a growing but still invisible problem in Latin America. Because as you had told us, the elderly in Latin America are not always accompanied by their families, as we all thought. And you provided the evidence and very well-researched and explained reasons why this is happening and affecting the mental health of around 84 million persons in your continent. The second thing is innovation. You have proposed a very innovative technique using arts, using theater, and using narrative to address this problem, which is starting to be used in some advanced Western economies, but is not yet a practice in Latin America. And that, again, is a very important thing that we like. But it's also meaning that you are pioneering something that has a lot of potential. So the third reason that we saw your proposal was extremely interesting was its scalability. It could provide an excellent example for countries in the region and farther in the world. And the fourth reason, I must say, is the one that talks more to me, because you've chosen an excellent pilot project. And I say it talks to me because I had the chance to serve in Peru twice when I worked for the United Nations. The first time it was in the 90s, and the country was affected by the violence of Shining Path guerrilla movement and the extreme economic crisis. And you had in Lima mushrooming settlements by people fleeing those terrible conditions. And one of them was Villa El Salvador. And Villa El Salvador became a target of the Shining Path violence because they thought that this approach of very humble people to fight violence with organization and self-work and community work was contrary to their aims for violent change. But Villa El Salvador won. And when I came back in 2014, it was a success story. And then I look at it and I look at your proposal and I can say that maybe the old people in in Villa El Salvador may be isolated, but they are also heroes. They are people that have been extremely important, whose stories must be told, whose contribution must be recognized, and whose dignity must be restored. And you brought all that to us, and we have to thank you for it. Muchísimas gracias y felicitaciones. Realmente.
Thank you to Team Latin America and to Maria Luisa. And a big thank you for all these excellent presentations. We've now arrived to the much-awaited part of the evening, and I am very pleased at this stage to invite the founder of the Geneva Challenge, Ambassador Stalin, to the stage in order to present the prizes to the teams. 5 prizes will be distributed tonight. The jury deliberated pretty intensely today and heard every team. And I will start by announcing the third places, of which there are 2, the second places, of which there are also 2, and the first place. So it's my great pleasure to ask Team North America with Project Naya to come up to the stage. The second, oh, thank you. Take some pictures, of course. Thank you, team, and congratulations. The second third place goes to Team Asia with the project Tandanan. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you, team. The second places are as follows, and I call Team Africa with Project Grand Guru Enclave to come up to the stage. There's one more there. Congratulations to Team Africa. And now I call and invite Team Europe to come up to the stage with Project Generazioni. Congratulations to Team Europe. And finally, the first place goes to Team Latin America. Again, a warm congratulations to Team Latin America with Project Historias con Punche. So our warmest congratulations to all the winners. We hope you continue your wonderful work in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. And with this, we are approaching the end of our ceremony. There's, however, one last important announcement that I have to make before we close. And I have the pleasure to announce that the 2024 edition of the Geneva Challenge will address the challenges of youth empowerment. I think something that is sorely needed. With the global youth population on the rise, empowering young individuals is crucial in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Making up 16% of the world's population at present, the active involvement of the 1.2 billion young people aged 15 to 24 is essential for building sustainable, inclusive, and resilient societies. However, the landscape of youth engagement and empowerment is complex, grappling with numerous challenges in the form of disparities, inaccessibility, and exclusion worldwide. In education, 142 million youth of upper secondary age find themselves out of school. On the employment front, at least 71 million young people are still navigating unemployment or precarious work arrangements. The rapid evolution of technology has further exacerbated the situation by creating a skills gap, leaving young individuals in too many parts of the world ill-prepared for the demands of the digital workforce. Evidently, the challenges of youth empowerment are multifaceted. Nevertheless, our youth are the change makers of tomorrow, and I encourage them to seek meaningful partnerships in their collective search for impactful and lasting solutions for our ailing planet. Please help us spread the world around you on the topic of our next challenge edition. Before I close, I'd like to invite all the teams up here for a group photo, and in doing so, and to everyone who joined us tonight, thank you and best wishes to you all. Ambassador Stadin, you need to come up with the picture as well, and the jury. Okay. Come. No, you have to go. We all have to go.
Down the bottom, that's a good idea.
Yeah.